Nobody likes making mistakes, especially when there's money on the line. Even mistakes costing a little as $1 can be pretty darn frustrating. So imagine how you'd feel if you had made one of the most expensive mistakes in history. Imagine spending so much money that would clean the entire bank or missing out on a lifetime's worth of riches. If you aren't sitting down, you might want to do so because these people, cities, and companies lost so much money that it might make you feel faint. Number 10. NASA and the metric system. This is a classic example in which math can really let you down. In 1999, NASA lost a satellite which cost around $150 million to build after engineers at Lockheed Martin used the imperial measurement system of inches, feet, and miles, but NASA had used the metric system of centimeters, meters, and kilometers. The navigation mishap killed the mission on a day when engineers had expected to celebrate the craft's entry into Mars orbit. During all communication from NASA to Lockheed Martin, no one thought to check they were all working with the same measurement format. The result? The Mars orbiter missed its mark completely, burned up its engine, and disappeared into orbit forever. Before we move on, leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be the first watching new episodes. Number 9. SpaceX first 3 rocket launches. 9 years ago, SpaceX, founded by billionaire Elon Musk, was close to bankruptcy. Musk established the project with a bid to put plants on the moon, but things went drastically wrong. Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, said, "Company SpaceX nearly failed itself out of existence and cost us millions." The Hawthorne, California-based aeronautics company was founded in 2002 to revolutionize space technology and enable multi-planetary human existence. However, 3 massive fails on launching his rockets ended up losing the company a couple $100 million in funding and donations, as well as leaving Elon Musk looking like a complete novice in the space industry. Soon after, SpaceX would safely return a vertical rocket to the ground, one of the company's key goals and technological marvel. By now, you probably know that Elon Musk completely revolutionized transportation both on Earth and in space. Today, he's one of the most influential people in the world. On the end, fails really pay off. Number 8. New Mexico loses control of a controlled fire. Yes, we know. How does one lose control of a controlled fire? Well, New Mexico showed how easy that can happen when in May 2000, a controlled fire in Cerro Grande flew out of control after high gusts of wind spread the fire across the wilderness. Controlled fires are necessary for the safety and preservation of the wilderness. Old trees accumulate an excess of fossils, making them especially flammable and dangerous. By deliberately burning certain target zones, experts can remove the danger of a fire spreading throughout the entire area. Well, that's what is supposed to happen in theory. The fire became so out of control, around $1 billion worth of property was destroyed, and it raged for a month before firefighters were able to get it under control. Luckily, no one was hurt, and New Mexico has since changed the process of controlling fires in order to make sure nothing like that ever happens again. Number 7. Soviet rocket and space station. In 1973, the Soviets launched first military Soviet space station, which was the first ever military space station to fly. Within 2 weeks of the launch, the station lost altitude and the project had to be abandoned. Then, 1 month later, a Soviet rocket carrying an electric moon roving robot crashed into the Pacific Ocean not long after launching. This really is a double whammy of bad luck. In today's money, the Russians lost $3.61 billion, and a panic spread across America that if the Russians were not able to launch rockets successfully, would the same thing happen to the American space shuttles, stations, and rockets? Well, the answer is yes. There have been some huge epic fails regarding space missions, but there has also been many successful ones as well. Number 6. Space Shuttle Columbia. On the 1st of February 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia returned from a 16-day scientific mission in which it had been orbiting Earth. Upon re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, the space shuttle simply started to break up and debris spread all over Texas. The shuttle was torn apart because of a piece of foam that fell from the shuttle's external tank, breaching its wing. Columbia was one of the oldest space shuttles in NASA's fleet at the time, and the saddest part is the fact that all 7 crew members died. The mission cost around $16.2 billion, and it was one of the most expensive and tragic space shuttle disasters in history. Columbia was carrying a female commander and was the female symbol of the United States. Columbia's 28th mission was really hard taken. After the disaster, space shuttle flight operations were suspended for more than 2 years. But NASA ultimately made several technical and organizational changes that ensured something like this never happens again. Number 5. Yahoo sells its shares to Alibaba. The story of Yahoo, this mistake, is legendary in the tech and finance industries. It's the biggest warning about selling assets in the heat of a movement, ever. In 2005, Yahoo owned 30% of Alibaba, a profitable Chinese multinational e-commerce, technology, and retail company. In 2012, Yahoo decided to sell their 30% shares back to Alibaba and made $7.16 billion. However, just a few years later, Alibaba goes public when its shares break records and announced the company had a value of $84 billion. What it must feel to know you lost around $20 billion if you'd only waited a few years more, or up to now gaining you between $50 to $60 billion. However, there are more costly mistakes that rub salt on the wound. Number 4. Oil spill on the Deepwater Horizon. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico is considered the worst environmental disaster in world history. On the night of April 20, 2010, a surge of natural gas blasted through a concrete core, causing the explosion, which sadly killed 11 men and created a sinking rig that started a catastrophic oil leak from the well. 210 million gallons of oil were spilled following an explosion on the drilling rig. Oil threatened marine and wildlife habitats from Louisiana to Florida, and the spill continued for months as workers attempted time and again to stop the flow of oil. Ultimately, an investigation revealed that the British company responsible for the Deepwater Horizon rigger had cut corners on safety with disastrous effects. Cutting corners turned out to be very costly. Cleaning up after the disaster and paying associated fines and legal fees has struck the company with a $61 billion bill. A decade later, many marine species are still struggling. The Gulf of Mexico is home to 21 species of marine mammal, most of which humans rarely see, and it's still too early to tell definitively what the impact has been for longer-lived species such as dolphins, whales, and sea turtles. Number 3. Selling Apple shares. Owning 10% of Apple right now sounds like a dream. But Ron Wayne had a 10% share in Apple during 1976, along with his associates Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. But for some reason, known only to himself, Wayne sold his 10% share in 1976, early in the company's history, for just $800. Apple shares hit a historic $1 trillion market cap value in 2018, becoming the first publicly traded U.S. company to ever reach the milestone. If he had held on until the mid-2000s, that same equity would have been worth $35 billion, and at this time, it'd be worth over $113 billion. Yes, you did hear that right. Amazingly, Wayne says he doesn't regret his decision, mostly because he knows he wouldn't have thrived at Apple. Surely, if we were in his position, we would probably work on the first-time machine now. Number 2. Excite passed on Google. It's one of the craziest stories that we just don't hear about enough. You've likely never heard of the tech company Excite, but you very well could have, had its CEO not passed upon buying Google, the site that would eventually dethrone Yahoo as the king of search. For $750,000, the CEO could have acquired the company that's now worth astonishing $1 trillion. Google co-founder Larry Page and Sergey Brin first offered to sell their fledgling search technology founded in their Harvard dorm room to Excite for $1 million, but dropped the price further when Excite showed no interest. Google went around and showed off a clearly superior search engine to a number of potential buyers and were turned down, mostly because the idea of PageRank was almost too revolutionary. Excite, meanwhile, was acquired by Ask Jeeves in 2004. That company became Ask.com and is barely known today. And Google is one of the companies that made 18% of the whole S&P 500 and stock market index that measures the stock performance of 500 large companies listed on stock exchanges in the United States. Number 1. Chernobyl disaster. Cost $590 billion. On April 25, 1986, the worst nuclear accident in history unfolded in what is now northern Ukraine. The disaster took place near the city of Chernobyl in the former USSR, which invested heavily in nuclear power after World War II. That morning, routine maintenance was scheduled at Lenin Nuclear Power Station's fourth reactor, and workers planned to use the time to test whether the reactor would still be cooled if the plant lost power. During the test, however, workers violated safety protocols and power surged inside the plant. Despite attempts to shut down the reactors entirely, another power surge caused a chain reaction of explosions inside. Finally, the nuclear core itself was exposed, spewing radioactive material into the atmosphere. Firefighters attempted to put out a series of blazes at the plant, and eventually helicopters dumped sand and other materials in an attempt to contain fire and radiation. Despite the death of 2 people in the explosion, the hospitalization of workers and firefighters, and the danger, the whole city of Pripyat and its 335,000 people were evacuated until about 36 hours after the disaster began. Soon the world realized that it was witnessing a historic event. The city has been an abandoned ghost town since the accident. Nobody knows how many people developed cancer or how many people were affected by radiation. More than 30 years on, scientists estimate the zone around the former plant will not be habitable for up to 20,000 years. Thanks for watching. Leave the comment down below and let us know what we should feature next. Don't forget to subscribe for new and upcoming episodes.